Good evening, Harrisburg. My name is Alan Kennedy Schaefer, president of Harrisburg Hope, and on behalf of Harrisburg Hope, it's my great honor to moderate tonight's event with the Harrisburg Regional Chamber and CREDC, the Hamilton Health Center, and the Community Action Commission. We're here to talk about economic development in the city of Harrisburg. We have an outstanding panel tonight, and in a few minutes, the panelists will have a chance to give their perspectives on where we're going in Harrisburg as far as new development and how to expand economic opportunities throughout our city. We have, from the far end, we have Aji Abraham from Capital Blue Cross. We have David Black from the Harrisburg Regional Chamber and CREDC, and Laura Williams from Ahold USA, which is the parent company for Giant. Also with us tonight, we appreciate Mayor Linda Thompson being with us. We also have Commissioner George Hartwig. We have Representative Patty Kim is with us. And also here tonight are Congressman Scott Perry's District Director Bob Riley, Senator Rob Teplitz's staff members Tyrone Powell and Brian Humphrey, City Council members Sandra Reed, Eugenia Smith, Bruce Weber, mayoral candidate Nevin Minland, representatives for mayoral candidate Eric Pappenfuse, Joyce Davis, and Carl Singleton, and Sonia Baltimore, and city council candidates Ben Allett and Shemaine Daniels, and former city council candidates Pat Stringer and Camille Reese. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. At this point, I'd like to welcome to the podium Janine Peterson, the director for Hamilton Health Center, who is going to help to welcome everyone to this marvelous facility.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
You have to excuse me, my voice isn't right, but I woke up this morning, I think it's all the weather and the humidity. But welcome to Hamilton Health Center, the new Hamilton Health Center. We're glad that the Chamber and CREDC asked us to host this event this evening. We have been working with them for about 3 years now, in trying to get this building off the ground. Someone asked me this evening how long did it take us to actually get to this point. It's been about a 6-year dream. And we had a vision that we wanted to make sure that Harrisburg had high quality care and that primary care didn't have to cost a lot, but we could do it in a top quality way. So hopefully sometime in the future you'll take advantage. We'd love to give tours. You can see me and take my card and we'll make sure that you get a tour. I was given a few minutes this evening. Medical, dental, behavioral health, social services are all done in this one building, and it's the first medical mall in the whole state of Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. We greatly appreciate being here at Hamilton Health Center, and we look forward to seeing how it will develop in the future with the newly renovated facility and continuing to expand to serve historically underserved populations here in Harrisburg. Next, I'd like to introduce Kathy Possinger, who's the director of the Community Action Commission.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening, and thank you for coming to South Allison Hill for a very important conversation about economic development and opportunity. The Community Action Commission for the last 15 years has been working in this community to work with residents and community leaders to develop opportunities for economic development. I'm pleased to have with us our South Allison Hill Plan and newsletter up at the front table. And we welcome you to take a copy with you, have an understanding of what's happening in South Allison Hill, and a really great opportunity to look around and see the great tools, resources, properties and buildings that are available as great economic engines in our community. So we're thrilled to have you here. And on behalf of the Community Action Commission, welcome, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Possinger. Thank you to the Community Action Commission. Several of the commissioners are here with us tonight as well, and we appreciate your work throughout Allison Hill and beyond. At this point, we're going to turn to Laura Williams, who is the Executive Vice President and Deputy Legal Counsel for Ahold USA, known here as Giant. And she will be discussing how, in her role, how Ahold USA has been working for economic development and what we can see in the future.
Thank you, Ellen. Again, I'm Laura Williams. I am actually the 2013 chair of the Harrisburg Regional Chamber. I'm the 2013 chair of the Harrisburg Regional Chamber, and wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the Chamber and Creedic and what we do, take a little bit of the mystery out of the Chamber and Creedic, and confirm our commitment to the city of Harrisburg. We believe, as a business community, that the success of Harrisburg is critical for the success of our region, and therefore we are committed, we the business community are committed to doing what we can to be a force for good here in the city. Just to talk a little bit about the Chamber and Creedic, they are two connected organizations. We operate as one. One is a 501c3 organization, the other one is a C6. They historically have operated, they're separate corporations, but now we operate together. We work very cooperatively. And we get our revenues in a couple of ways. We have dues from our members. We have events. Many of you have been to many of our events in the city and outside of the city. We get about 25% of our revenue from Creedic contributions and about 25% from fees that are generated from the loans and other kinds of grant programs that Creedic is involved with and which are vital for economic development in this region. So that's just a high level of what we do and who we are. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Aji to talk really about the Creedic side of the operation, because Creedic is really where a lot of the economic development programs that are run through this organization originate.
Good, actually I guess it's evening. Thanks to all of you for being here, and thanks to Janine Peterson and the Hamilton Health Center for hosting us here today. Aji Abraham, I work for Capital Blue Cross, but not the reason I'm here today. I'm here as the chairman of the Creedic board, much to Dave's regret, I think. What we do over at Creedic, our goal really is fairly simple, is try to spur economic development throughout the region, all parts of the region, including the city. We do that through a whole host of, I think Dave likes to call an alphabet soup with various programs. They're either state, some are federal, some are partnerships between the state and feds and local government, so I don't want to neglect to mention the county and the city, who's also been a partner in some of the programs. But really, for me, the goal is creating opportunity. We're here to help individuals, businesses find ways to grow and expand. I was talking to actually my dry cleaner earlier here today, and he is a small business. He pointed out that small businesses are the economic growth engine for not just the local region, but the entire country, and they're one of the largest employers in the entire country. Our role here at CREDIC, through this alphabet soup of programs that we can talk about if you're interested, is really to help people, especially those small to mid-sized businesses, grow and expand their operations, hire more people, expand the tax base for the city or whatever municipality it is that we're in, trying to put these programs together for, and then also create jobs. So it's with that in mind, I think, that we put this whole evening together in an attempt to see what the community wanted to do and what else we can do. So hopefully we spend most of our time listening to you guys. What else we can do as the Chamber and CREDIC to ensure that we're delivering on our goal, which is economic development.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. Thank you, Ms. Williams. At this point, we're going to hear from David Black, who many of you know is the leader of the Harrisburg Regional Chamber and CREDIC, and has been quite outspoken on a number of issues in our community for economic development and on behalf of the business community here. So with that, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Alan. I'm going to be very short. First of all, I want to thank all of the folks here for attending. It's nice to see a packed house on a hot summer evening. And of course, we want to thank Janine and her team for the hospitality. Just a quick comment on this facility. You know, a lot of projects we work on, they're good projects. They create jobs, they do good things. But there are a few projects like this one that really, you know, touch our hearts where it happens. And we love working with Janine. We love what you're doing here, and we want to get. And the only thing I'd ask is, since PCN is here, we are lobbying for the additional RCAP money so we can finish that big room you saw when you came in. So all of you, I know Patty has been very helpful. But you know, we are working on that project. I'm not going to really get into a whole lot. I want to let. I know Alan has some questions for me. But you know, economic development in the city is vital to the region. The city is the hub. We understand that. We've had a good working relationship with Mayor Thompson, who you'll hear from just a little bit. And there's been some challenges over the last few years. There's no doubt about it. But I feel optimistic about the future of this city. We, as the business community, believe in this city. We are committed to this city, and we are committed to our region, and so goes the city, so goes the region. So, Alan, I'm going to stop there and fire away if you like.
Thank you, Dave. The way this is going to work is I'm going to ask a few questions of Dave, and then of the other panelists here, and then as usual, we're going to open it up to your questions. We have audience mics both to my left and my right. And we're hoping that the community, we have a lot of people here tonight at the Hamilton Health Center. We hope that some of you have some questions or suggestions for moving Harrisburg forward. My first question for you, Dave, is there was a lot of talk in the mayoral primary this spring regarding tax abatements. Do you see the proposed tax abatements as a good thing or not such a good thing? And the second part of that is in addition to those tax abatements, or instead of, what would you propose?
In my mind, I think in our organization's mind, tax abatements, particularly used wisely, are a good thing. They've got to be part of a strategy, and I think that's been part of the criticism of tax abatements in the past, and so they're tied to things. I don't want to steal any of the mayor's thunder, but she's proposed a Keystone Opportunity Zone in the city. There's a window open until October 1st, and it's targeting some sites right here in Allisonville, the Hajoka project, property across the street, the old Coke property, and this abandoned lot over here, as well as a couple of other properties in the city that aren't on the city tax rolls, and it would be used as an incentive to get them on the rolls. And the reason that I mentioned that, there's a strategy behind it. Now, we are working, and I know the mayor's working on a more comprehensive strategy, and I think we'll see that evolve with hopefully the debt solution. But short answer is we think they're good, and they're a good tool when used in the right way.
Given the city's fiscal crisis that has evolved, and hopefully we're on the road to recovery with the efforts of our elected officials and the state receiver who has intervened, is there money to do tax abatements at this point, or where do we find the money?
Well, actually, the interesting thing about tax abatements, they don't cost any money. Tax abatements take nothing off the tax rolls, and the LERTA program that you've heard a lot about, and the current Keystone Opportunity Zone has been presented, nothing will be removed. There will be no loss of revenue to the city because those properties are on. If development takes place and something's built on those sites, you're giving an abatement depending on the program for a few years. But it's used as a tool and it's used as an incentive. And the other thing that we have to remember, the city of Harrisburg isn't in a vacuum. We've got suburban municipalities that are offering tax breaks now. And, there's a little bit of competition. We don't like to admit it in state, in region, but there are competition for projects. So there's no cost to the city. So yes, the city could afford it.
Moving to a related issue, the Keystone Opportunity Zones is something that's been talked about publicly by a variety of levels of government. Could you describe the Keystone Opportunity Zone issues and what the relative benefits and potential downsides there are to that program?
The Keystone Opportunity Zones were started in 1998, but I'm smiling because in 1998 it was going to be once and done. It's been done and done and done and done, and there's another window open now. Keystone Opportunity Zones are very simple. They waive all taxes on a property, including, and the most powerful incentive are the state taxes. If you're doing business, you're a business, and you're doing business in a Keystone Opportunity Zone, you pay no state taxes. If you live, not work, if you live in a Keystone Opportunity Zone, you pay no state taxes. So we have had some zones in the property. Probably the most noteworthy project is the Cova Apartments down on 3rd Street, kind of across from the Broad Street Market. That was the refurbishing of the old Furlough building. And that building sat vacant for 20 years or so. It's been a long, long time. And the developer there took advantage of the Keystone Opportunity Zone. He didn't have to pay sales tax on the materials and supplies that went into it. But more importantly, the people that are living there tax-free from state taxes. Now, what you can do under the newer zones, he is paying payment in lieu of taxes to the city and to the school district. So the city, again, is not losing any money on the zone. And again, used in the right way, that's a very powerful tool.
In the past, there was some friction between the chamber and the mayor and other city officials, city council. Just wanted to see what has the chamber been working on to improve those relations with city officials, and how do we work on that beyond the city in terms of working with the state officials now that General Lynch and the state receivers team are also in place working with the mayor's office.
Dave, if I can jump in for a second, I think I'd like to clarify one point. Although there have been a series of healthy discussions between us and elected officials, not just in the city, but in other parts of our region that we support, including Perry County, for example, that's a good thing. I mean, discussion, conversation, different points of view, we should all bring that to the table. But at the end of the day, I don't think the chamber nor CREDIC have ever been shut out of anyone's office, nor have we ever gone unheard when we raised an issue or tried to represent the business community. And I'm thankful that we live in a region where our elected officials are willing to talk, listen, and partner with us to try and engage in economic development. So while, and I don't mean to disparage the news media because I know a number of them are out there, while the news media makes a good print out of trying to argue that there's space between members of the business community and elected officials, more often than not, although we like to discuss things, we might have different points of view, we can usually find some common ground at the end of the day.
Thank you. My last
I
question.
was just going to say what he said.
My last question on that is on a slightly different note is historically there's also been I think probably something that's harder to deal with, and you have made a lot of there have been a lot of work in terms of community relations and making sure that there's good relationships between the community, businesses, and the elected officials. Something that might be a little harder to deal with is the differences between parts of our city, different neighborhoods. How do we bring people together and make sure that there are opportunities throughout the city? We're in Allison Hill, for instance. There have not been as many economic opportunities as there are downtown on 2nd Street, where most of the restaurants and bars are located, just as one example. And there haven't been as many new projects as there are in Midtown, where the 1500 and the federal courthouse, other projects of that type are going in. So I guess I wanted to ask, in addition to Hamilton Health Center, what else is the chamber or local businesses looking at in terms of Allison Hill and other neighborhoods that might historically not have had as many economic opportunities?
Let me just back up a step. We're all in this together in the city. And if a good project happens downtown, and there's a big building built downtown, and I'll thought this might come. So I did a little homework. Most of you understand or have heard that the Hilton sold a year or so ago through a number of efforts. The Hilton is a big project downtown. It pays about $150,000 a year in city taxes. It pays about $400 and some odd $1,000 a year to the city school district. If there is another big building, Hilton size, downtown, everybody in the city is going to benefit from it. Now, we'd like to see more development in the neighborhoods, and what we've been trying to do is to try to work with, you heard from Kathy, with Community Action, trying to support their efforts. They've got a strategic plan in place, trying to encourage what they have going on here in the neighborhood. There's no doubt about it. It's a little tougher to do development in Allison Hill than it is downtown. But we've got to remember, as a city, we're all in this together, and quite frankly, as a region, we're all in this together.
One of the things that I think it's important for us also to remember is that when we do economic development anywhere, and in particular in the city, we're also bringing jobs. And that's one of the things, we've talked a lot about tax abatements and buildings and materials and those kinds of things, but it's really about jobs. It's really about creating opportunities for people in the city to work and to live.
Laura, on that note, what is the best way to create jobs in Harrisburg?
I wish I had a crystal ball and could gaze into it and know the absolute answer to that. I think there's a lot of things that we're already doing that are leading us down that road. And one of the things we've talked already about this Keystone Opportunity Zone, and to the extent that we can attract businesses into the city to continue to revitalize areas of the city, to revitalize these properties that are right around where we sit today. The more we can do to help to revitalize those properties that create where businesses come in to build and create opportunities, that's what we need to do. We need to continue to create opportunities for people to work in the city.
And if I could just add, I think when Laura says we, it's a collective we. It's not we, the organization. It's everybody in this room. It's partners. It's Community Action. It's the city. It's the Redevelopment Authority. It's Dauphin County. It's everybody working together. Economic development is a team sport.
Absolutely.
If I could just add a thought, and I can't believe I'm the one that's going to say this, but the one thing that I would ask is that we all together speak positively about the city and about the growth in the region. Not just the city, but the entire Southern Pennsylvania area. I travel a lot for work, and I find it bothersome when I go places and people say, so you're from that city that's bankrupt. So first of all, I have to explain, the city's not bankrupt, it's got financial problems. No one's declared bankruptcy yet.
And two, I have to explain what a great region it is to live and grow. I was not born here, but I moved here when I was 4 years old. I've been here ever since. I'm a hometown boy, or at least I consider myself that way. I think it's a great region to live and raise a family in, and it's where I'm raising my family. So even though there might be differences and different points of view, and it might come out in media between businesses and elected officials, at the end of the day, this is a great place to live and to raise a family.
Thank you, Aji. At this point, we're actually going to introduce some of our elected officials, three elected officials who are each going to have up to 2 minutes to give some remarks. I'd like to introduce someone who has worked very closely with all of us on economic development issues, and we have appreciated her service to our city these last 3 years. Mayor Linda Thompson.
Thank you, Alan, to this great board of Creedy. Thank you for your presence. To two of the greatest women that I know in this area, Kathy Pottinger and Jeannie Peterson. It has just been an honor to work with you two over the last 3.5 years, and we certainly have together used our bulldozers to get a lot of good things done. And I stand here proudly to be able to talk about this city moving forward and the great things we've done over the last 3 years. You know, Jeannie, the vision came about several years ago. I remember coming to a big banquet over on the West Shore when we were raising money, and the then mayor promised you so much money, and I told you when I became the mayor, you'll get more money. And so we were able to contribute to the establishment of this great building right here, and I'm so honored to be the mayor and know that I was a part of the ribbon cutting, the groundbreaking, and also raising the funds to help you get this event started. So we're glad that we have been able to be successful in doing that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to be here with you this evening, and I want to thank Creedy. You know, it's always quick to talk about the differences, but you know, we have so much to talk about in terms of the positives. And we here at the City of Harrisburg, under my leadership, have developed a great relationship with Creedy. Certainly we've had our differences, but the key to leadership, good leadership, is to get past those differences quickly and really get down to business. And so I stand here proud to constantly be like a broken record to talk about, you know, that the city, since 2010, we have been able to issue well over 1,900 new business licenses. And out of that 1,900, at least 800 businesses have been established here. That is new businesses in this city under my leadership. And well over 1,600 new and part-time jobs have been created. And so you want to talk about a bankrupt city, you know, businesses don't come into town and start businesses and grow jobs under a bankrupt city. We have a great reputation here. And we have been forging a great relationship with Creedy and their leadership. So I want to thank Creedy and the leadership of Dave Black. We don't always agree, but when we do agree, it is about the business of the city, creating jobs and moving it forward, and him and I have been able to do that well together, and I thank him for his leadership. And to my good friend Linda Goldstein as well, who's always there when I need her. I can just call her up and say, hey, you're going on this board to represent me, and represent me well, and she always does do that well. So I want to welcome the Creedy board members and all of you for this important dialogue. Economic development and long-range economic development planning is essential to the future growth of any city. And that's precisely what we've been doing. We talked about, I don't know, Dave alluded to it a little bit, but I established a steering committee, and it's made up of a cross-section of city representatives, from business community leaders to social service leaders, to the small business guy, the big business guy, elected officials. I forced that steering committee to put together the most comprehensive economic development plan that the city has ever had in its history. And it focuses on 3 categories: housing strategy, economic development, and best land use. And that plan is Creedy and the Business Advisory Council that I formed is made up of a lot of good, smart businessmen who are part of that Business Advisory Committee to come out with this great plan that will allow the next leadership to be able to take that plan and move this city forward. So I'm proud of that. The administration continues to work hard on settling the incinerator debt. I'm pleased to say that you'll be hearing great news in several months, that we will be settling the debt on the incinerator. The taxpayers of the city of Harrisburg will have no debt on their backs. That is great news, and that is also a caveat and a good carrot to have for the region, and for the state, because businesses then will be able to take that good reputation, and the city will eventually get back into the bond market and have a good rating. And I'm also pleased to say that we will also be coming out of this year with a balanced budget and absolutely a plan in place that will address our structural deficit. So going forward, that the new transition will have a much better city than I had. And I'm very proud of that legacy. And that's because of the partnership that I forged over the last 3 years with all the social service leaders and also Creek and all the great businessmen. And I'm very proud that there are some businessmen in this community who love this city, who know it's a great place to do business. And we also are very committed to helping this city be more inclusive with minority and women businesses. You know, there's been much said that there's been very little done for minority and women businesses, and that is absolutely a fallacy. Actually, it's false. We've hired more minorities in business contracts than ever in the history of time. And that too will eventually come to light. But again, I'm proud to be here tonight to talk about what has been established and the baton we're going to be passing for this great future. And the city does have a great future, a bright future, and we will be able to create new opportunities going forward with all the debt being settled and with having balanced budgets and a good reputation going forward. So everyone at this table, be committed, remain committed, get involved. And as far as the tax abatement program, that legislation is housed right now in committee under Susan Brown Wilson. This same group, if you are really committed about moving this city forward, particularly this section of the city, which is the divested section in the city of Harrisburg, has the highest amount of poverty, the highest amount of crime, the smallest amount of business creation, but it's a very diverse population and a very ripe population for growth. And we've got two strong leaders here, Gene Peterson and Ted Beck, who really have worked hard with this administration to make the blueprint work. And I'm asking you, if you are committed about moving this city forward, you need to challenge the chair of economic development as to why she is being an obstructionist to growth in this city. Because that KOZ zone legislation, give me a second, that KOZ zone legislation is in committee, it's been in committee for quite some time. You want to talk about job creation, business creation, and moving this city forward, that legislation will be a great opportunity for this particular section of town, attracting businesses and growing jobs, and making sure that minority and women businesses are a part of that mainstream Harrisburg. So let's get busy, and let's start challenging the great opportunities that are ahead of us.
Thank you very much, Mayor Thompson. We appreciate you being here in your remarks tonight. We also appreciate Bob Philbin, the Chief Operating Officer, being with us. We also appreciate City Councilman Wanda Williams, who is here with us, and former mayoral candidate Louis Butts as well. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Dauphin County Commissioner George Hartwick.
Also want to mention Eugenia Smith, who I also see here, City Councilwoman as well. Economic development is a complicated team sport, particularly when you're working in an urban environment. As a former mayor of Stilton, the things that folks enjoy in development that occurs in a green field is completely different than the type of planning and development that needs to occur in an urban environment. And it takes a great deal of planning, it takes a lot of creativity, a lot of partnerships, and the ability to actually be a part of a common theme where everybody needs to be working together in order to try to attract, lure, and attain good business opportunities. And let's make no mistake about it. Business opportunities and economic development will not happen if folks don't see an opportunity to make revenue, to be the ability to actually make some resources as a result of their investment. As much as we like to think that in my line of work, particularly trying to help folks from the social service side, getting them back on their feet, trying to invest in this center and the Community Action Commission and all the things we've done, economic development, while there is a socially conscious aspect to it, folks are looking to try to acquire and make revenue. We need to send a clear message that we are partners in here. We believe as the city goes, so does the region. And in order for us to send a message that government will not stand in the way, but help lead the way for help in business growth, redirection, and the ability for those jobs to happen in some of our most distressed areas, we can't be pointing fingers at each other. You can't talk negatively about things that are going on. We need to come together with one accord. There's a lot of people that want to tell you what's wrong with what you're doing, or this elected official, or this person. We need to really have a common goal, and in order to work together in a difficult to develop environment, we need to be all working towards the opportunities that could potentially exist as a result of us coming together, rather than us working against each other and pointing fingers. I think as we move forward, opportunities will exist for all, but leadership brings people together, not divides them, and we need some more cohesiveness from both the county, the city, elected officials at both the state level, and I really feel a resurgence in the city of Harrisburg. I think as we talked about related to the economic crisis, we're beginning to move that forward, and we are very hopeful and optimistic and look forward to playing a critical role and being a partner with all of you in that economic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartwick. We really appreciate you being here and bringing that county perspective, which is vital, particularly on social services, as budgets have been slashed at the state level and funding here has been threatened. On that note, I'd like to introduce the person who is going to help us out at the state level and represent our interests, Representative Patty Kim.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to make this short and sweet. Warren Buffett has a great strategy when it comes to investing in stocks. He's quoted, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful." So what it means when you have a good company, they're going through some reorganization, where stocks fall, grab it. Invest now because they're going to eventually go up. City of Harrisburg is a good city. Our stocks are low, our real estate's kind of cheap. This is the time to invest because we will come back. Not if, not when, we will come back. We will always be the state capital. We will always be along the beautiful Susquehanna River. And we will always have a core community that cares for Harrisburg and will not stop until we see it. Continue this dialogue because when we come back, when we're ahead, we'll already have a plan and let's move forward.
Thank you, Representative Kim, Commissioner Hartwick, Mayor Thompson. We really appreciate you being with us tonight. At this point, I'd like to invite folks from the community to come up to the microphones. We hope that you have some questions, ideas, suggestions on how we can continue to develop our city and create new opportunities here in Harrisburg. We are timing everyone. We have 60 seconds for everyone who comes to the microphone. We welcome any ideas and comments that you have. I'd also like to thank, as Dave mentioned, there are the media folks who are here tonight with us. PCN is here, Channel 20, the Patriot News, Today's the Day Harrisburg, and any of you who are also journalists. We know Politics PA is also here as well. Thank you. At this point, former congressional candidate,
city resident,
Sheila Dalford.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for hosting this forum, Mr. Kennedy Schaefer. I think that the city is in a very good place at this point, but I do think that we need to create opportunities for real leadership and opportunities that include Black people. I say that because I can. Thank you. Don't be afraid of it. We have to. We have to. We have to. It's not, we are a diverse city. It cannot be that only white people are the beneficiaries of economic development. Am I right? If I'm right, clap your hands. If you disagree, clap now. Okay, thank you. Now, we have to get to the point, right, Mr. Kennedy Schaefer, where we can talk about this. Mayor Thompson and Commissioner Hartwick said that economic development is about making money. That's true. One race should not be the only one making money. Now, wait a minute. That means that we all must be invested in that process and that we must be conscious, cognizant, and aware of the need to include everyone. And we need to dig down deeply into what it takes to make this city function well. I'm going to leave you with this message. There is an article in the Bird this month that talks about Harrisburg as a small city. It's doable, folks. We can do this, but we cannot do it if we exclude one race. We didn't exclude women, don't exclude black folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Any comments from the panel?
The only thing I'd say is I agree that economic development ought to uplift everybody. I think it's been a goal of creating in the chamber. I will tell you, as we do loan reviews, I have no idea when they come to the board what the race is of anybody that applies. So they get approved or they don't get approved on the merits of the proposal.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Tara Leo Aki from Today's the Day Harrisburg, who has a brief announcement.
Hello, thank you. I get to follow Sheila. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank the Chamber and Creative for inviting me here tonight to take a couple minutes to talk about 2-Minute Tuesday. When we talk about economic and community development, we talk about a slate, establishing a slate that can encourage and sustain and maintain such development. And it's in that spirit that 2-Minute Tuesday was born. It was inspired by an initiative in York, and what it does is it encourages, it's a call to action to all residents and businesses to take 2 minutes every Tuesday and step out front of your residence or business and clean up the space in front of it. So that can be picking up litter, sweeping, knocking down cobwebs, changing a light bulb, even beautifying by planting a flower. Because 2 minutes really is all that it takes to make this city better. It sounds doable and it is doable. And what it does is it engages the community and it engages the businesses with this community that they come and do business in. This is our city and our concern. And not only are we a capital city, we are a river city. And we need to take the responsibility we have as stewards of this special place seriously. On the way out, I invite every one of you to take a 2-Minute Tuesday Business Club form. It is a project that is a partnership of 2-Minute Tuesday, Community Action Commission, and the Chamber and CREDIC, and we partnered up last fall to offer the 2-Minute Tuesday Business Club, which will enable the business community to create a strong presence here in our city to say that 2 minutes is really all it takes to make the city better. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. We appreciate the work that Today's the Day Harrisburg and the Chamber and the Community Action Commission have been doing to clean up our streets and make a difference. That's 2-Minute Tuesday. This is 1-Minute Thursday. Next is Ava Bird.
Hi there. If I told you there's a recession-proof commodity that could create hundreds of jobs and bring in millions of dollars, would you be interested? I believe in the 3 R's. The revenue remedy is reefer. There's a bill in the state to legalize marijuana in Pennsylvania. There's 20 other states that have it. Where can they get product? We should be growing it in the steel mills. That Coca-Cola plant on 17th Street is perfect for indoor, 24-hour, all year-round growth. You know, it sounds funny, but if I told you 41 years ago you could go to jail for playing a number, and look at the lottery. 40 years later, oh, we made $3 billion. Well, medical marijuana could do the same thing, and if we could pay off the incinerator and we wouldn't have any property taxes, I bet you a lot more people would be very interested. Anyway, you need a commodity that people want. Last the last poll that Terry Madonna did, 84% of people are in favor of having marijuana legal in Pennsylvania. So it's coming. We need to talk about what are we going to do when it gets here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. On that note, just a special announcement from Harrisburg Hope that Ava is going to be very excited. We are going to hold a debate on marijuana and legalization and the issues involving criminalization as well. Stay tuned for further updates on that. Next question.
no answers from the Chamber of Creed about David's proposal? Dave? Well, you guys, when it's legalized and you see all the money it'll make, you'll be jumping all over it. So we'll worry about that at that point.
Actually, I'll just say, I have read a lot about what's happened in Denver. I was visiting there, and they have reutilized a lot of old warehouses, a lot of things. There is an economic, there's no doubt about it, there's an economic value there, and I'm saying this as an old Cheech and Chong song is going through my head. So. Sorry, thank you.
You can also look up Senate Bill 528, which Senator Dalen Leach has introduced in the Senate. Senator Leach is a former Harrisburg Hope panelist, if you wanted to know more about his proposal.
My question has nothing to do with that. Well, it could in the future, but okay. I realize that small business is obviously the bread and butter, and your focus is primarily on sustaining small businesses and helping them to start out and grow. But what I'm interested in seeing a startup community building in Harrisburg and the surrounding region. And by startup, I mean a high growth companies. So my question is that something that Chamber and CREDA think about at all, about building a community that inspires people to pursue startups and build a community where they could support each other? If I may, if you're interested in building a startup community, every other Tuesday at Startup Harrisburg, we have an open coffee startup club, and you can learn more about that at startupharrisburg.com. That's startuphbg.com. And thank you.
I was just going to say about your company starting in Harrisburg, and somebody at an event today. We do have a small business incubator in Carlisle that's spun off some great successes. In fact, you probably read that the company webpage FX is actually moving to Harrisburg, Front Street, and we've had a lot of success there. We're involved in a different scale with the Hershey Center for Applied Research, trying to start biotech companies out there coming out of the Med Center. So the short answer to your question is yes, but thank you for the work that you're doing and offering space for people to kind of come together and share ideas. That's a new trend in the country. It's nice to see Harrisburg is right there. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from...
Hi, I'm Susan Schaefer. I have a two-part message. One adds to what Sheila said. I'd love to talk to you later. And what you said on the board, ideas. I am always thinking of the angle of disability for obvious reasons. And it's not just about growing our businesses, but also growing customer base. And there's a whole population that's not always considered. And our money is as green as everybody else's money. And so we're doing this program on July 27th at the Midtown Scholar, and it's the day after the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. ADA is not just American Dental Association, it's Americans with Disabilities Act, civil rights legislation that's been as comprehensive as the one in 1964. And we're really gearing it to businesses. And it's a free day-long program for about 2 hours, 3 hours. And we want to let business owners know accommodating people with disabilities is not as hard as you might think. And we just want to enjoy what you have to offer. And I, for one, am not big on patronizing businesses I can't get into. But I have a lot of ideas if anybody's interested in growing their business to this population, called windows shopping. Let's do it on the computer, just like everybody else, instead of just looking at a window and trying to see what the wares are inside the building. My second message is I work for Shirley's cleaning service. So if you like the idea of 2-minute cleaning, the 2-minute program, but you don't like the idea of cleaning, look me up.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. Any comments?
No, thank you, and actually, we'd like to talk to you, learn a little bit more, because that's something every small business should become aware of, and I think it's a good opportunity to educate businesses. And as you said, your money's the same color as everybody else's, and the more opportunities for you to spend it, I'm sure the small business community would love it. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Do you have, in your experience outside the chamber with Giant, do you have any experiences or insight into how to reach across to make sure that folks with disabilities have equal access?
Giant's always been very committed to customers with disabilities. Our stores are accessible. As many of you know, when you go into a Giant store, there's rarely a sidewalk that you need to go over. If customers need assistance, we have customer service associates who will help anyone who needs assistance. So if you come into a Giant store and you need assistance, all you need to do is ask. And our associates are always happy to help.
Thank you. Next question.
Yes, Vince Davis. One thing you said, Mr. Abraham, that if someone brings in a application and if they get approved, then if they meet the qualifications, then you'll think about investing. My concern is this. A long time ago, real estate companies, they did what they called redlining, pretty much putting people in certain areas to lighten up other areas. My concern is that how serious are you all in investing in the hood? Sheila Dalfour pretty much hit it on the nail, where she said basically this thing is open up for everybody. But the truth of the matter is that we have a large, diverse community. Everyone knows that. But where you put your dollars at is another story. So my concern is, because we have a member of the African American Chamber of Commerce, and we have other diverse people here in this community, in this room. Even though we're sitting here and we're saying that we're going to do something, but at the end of the day, what are we really going to do? Are you seriously going to think about investing in the hood? If you go down Baltimore, you will see a McDonald's right downtown, in the hood. But if you come in Harrisburg, you'll see a McDonald's on 22, you'll see a McDonald's someplace else, but you won't see any major business inside the city of Harrisburg. So my question to you, as well as a challenge, is how serious are you all about investing dollars in the community, and basically in the African American community? Because downtown's great, it looks wonderful, but we have to come back here.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
We're very serious. Starting in 2004, we started a business diversity initiative, and we've learned a lot about that over the years. And it's about providing education. It's about providing training. It's about working with our partners at Community Action. We recently the Community First Fund that does a lot of intensive training before lending. It's actually sharing office space with us. We participated in a number of seminars over here at PNC Bank in their upper room. It's not enough. I mean, it's not enough, and I understand your point, but it's part of it starts with some education on what we need to start a business, what we need to invest in a business. All the programs that we lend, there's state guidelines, and we're not able to reach everybody that wants to start a business. It's just the way that the guidelines are written. But we continue to do better, and we're always open to more suggestions.
The only comment I'd add to that is, if we weren't serious about doing something for this community, we wouldn't be here today.
Thank you. For the next question, I wanted to again invite anyone who is here with us tonight. We have a great crowd here for our Forum on Economic Development. We encourage everyone to come up and give your thoughts, your questions on how to create new economic opportunities in Harrisburg. Also, thank you again to all of the elected officials, the city council members that I've been reminded are with us, are in addition to Wanda Williams and Eugenia Smith and Sandra Reed, we have Bruce Weber here with us as well. Next question.
Hi, I'm Carl Feldman, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but as the city gets better, it's likely that lower-income families might face instances in which they'll be priced out of their own market. And the best way to deal with that is to actually create more infill development and more infill housing. But we see a lot of developers who are sitting on their land, who are waiting for it to get better. How would you push those people to move forward and actually build something on it? Would you be opposed to a tax on vacant properties? I know on Front Street, right on Riley, there's a large vacant property. I think it's owned by, yeah, and I mean that's prime real estate. What would work to push? What would work to push development on? I mean that's an example, but on property to build more infill development.
The example you're talking about is at front of Burbank?
Yeah, actually it is.
Yeah. That's a challenge every place. The city, probably most people are aware of it, actually has a two-tiered real estate tax structure, and taxes are higher on property. You're taxed both on your property and buildings that are on it. The tax rate on properties is actually substantially higher than the millage rate on buildings. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 on property and 5 on buildings. That's one incentive to try to get it done. It would be nice to get to a point where we have the concern about people getting possibly moved out of their own neighborhood. I think that's something to be aware of, and thank you for bringing it to the attention here tonight, but I think we've got a long way to go before that becomes an issue here. There's a lot of, the Community Action Agency actually did some nice infill housing over here at 16th and Swatera, and they still have houses for sale, by the way, and they're in a tax-free zone, so you can live there tax-free. How's that for a plug, Kathy? So, I mean, there are other things underway in the city, and again, it's partners that are making it happen.
We also, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families who lost their homes recently in the fires and the building that collapsed as well. I know Mr. Philbin may have want to say something on that in terms of how the city is responding, and also I wanted to also invite Mr. Philbin to comment on the Adopt-A-Lot program, which has been a positive development through Danzante, which I've been involved in, has created a community garden on Allison Hill. So that's another opportunity for the community to try to invest back into our community spaces.
Well, thanks, Alan, for the opportunity. I missed the first part of the question, but we have a comprehensive, as the mayor said earlier and Dave alluded to, we have a comprehensive economic development plan going together that's pulling together community leaders, neighborhood representatives, social agencies like CAC. It's going to be probably more than a year process to pull this together, but it's grassroots, it's focused on the city, and it's going to focus on land use, job development, and housing. So a lot of these issues that we're discussing tonight are endemic and systemic in the city, and we're going to address them as best we can in the time that's left in this administration, moving into the next administration. As to the question about the property on Front Street, developers develop and they need to get a return on their investment, and they need to be able to have access to capital to invest in the city. And the development in the city right now, I think, I don't represent developers, but it's reached a point where the investment is sort of peaking. We need to have the recovery process really fall into place, and we all kind of anticipate that that's going to happen. And some of us involved in the process know that's going to happen. It's just the fine tuning and the timing. Once that happens, we're going to see a much more positive attitude about capital investment, which will allow developers to develop the property that they have in the city. Right now, from what I can see, all of the major developers in the city are coming to sort of peaking as far as the investments that they can make without getting a return on investment. I mean, you can build, and I'm not talking about any specific developer now, but you can build 100 condominiums, and if you're selling 10 of them, you're going to have a hard time, meeting your investment, your mortgage payments and your loan payments, and yet look to making another major investment in the city. Again, I'm just talking in general, no specific developers. So I think the bottom line on all of this is we need recovery, and that plan's in place and it's moving forward. And then after that, we need a recovery plan. And this administration is laying the groundwork for that, and we've been doing this for more than 6 months now, so that we can capitalize on the upswing, the positive development. I think Representative Kim hit it right on the head when she said, now's the time to invest. And I think, again, once we're able to capitalize, that investment's going to flow to the city. Sorry that took so long.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Butts.
Louis Butts. Alan, thanks a lot for holding this forum. Thank you, panel. But we have an attitude issue. Hey, Russ, no one should be laughing at you. That's a good idea. And that's the problem with the whole thing. People laughing at other people when they say something. She's trying. She has a plan. You don't even have, the question is, how do you create jobs? No answer. So instead of laughing at her, since she has something, you take that and you nurture it. Don't laugh at her, because maybe that's the point in which our revenue can start in the momentum. Right here in Allison Hill, they have momentum. Midtown, they have a momentum and their group. And the uptown area where your office is the Camp Curtin district. We are in the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. Why don't you, if you have some kind of issues regards to African American participation, your attitude towards African Americans, Mr. Black, why don't you take this idea and work on the district in the Camp Curtin district and build that? You're talking about a community in which that investment as well as raise the pride of the citizen. We have what it takes. It's just sometimes the attitudes of our people and keeping us boxed in. Yeah, I'm an African American man, and there's not that many in here. But if you laugh, don't do that, because it's important. I was born and raised in Harrisburg, and I know the history of treating. I do, and it's not a shiny and funny and happy thing. So don't laugh at her, because that's not good. That's not good. Don't laugh at none of the residents who are trying to come out and give ideas, okay? Because it's important. I understand your vetting and of your applications and stuff. You may not know the history of treating. You may not know, but they are hard on the African American, and it's traditional. Thank you. How can you create jobs? Listen a little more, and not have such an attitude.
Thank you, Mr. Butts.
Good evening. Regina Smith, city resident, elected official. I'm going to leave, but I would be remiss if I didn't make a comment about economic development in terms of looking at better opportunities for ex-offenders. I think that we need to give a lot of attention to. It would address the crime rate in our city. A lot of these people are unemployable or not employable because they have criminal records. We need to do some things to create a program and I know Patty Quinn is working on, she's working on a program to help some of the ex-offenders. We need to look at how we can come up with some ways to be more creative to get our ex-offenders jobs, and we need a mentoring program where somebody can follow them and help them to become successful and productive in the city. I don't know how many times I have people coming up to me saying they want a job. They're begging me. They want to work, but every time they go to look for a job, they can't find one. It's either through a temp service, where just when it's about time to be hired permanently, they let them go. They don't have benefits for their family. I mean, we really do need to look at creating some type of opportunities for our ex-offenders, because I really believe that we will see a big change in Harrisburg if we were to do that.
Thank you. That was in December, we had we worked with the organization, Appreciate, it sounds like us, and we had the business community in, and Dauphin County helped to co-sponsor it, and it was a morning session, one of the hotels, but it was focused on ex-offenders, and particularly with the Department of Corrections getting the non-dangerous folks out. There's a need. There's not only need, but I think it's a great opportunity because as the economy gets a little bit better, there's a need to fill the workforce. So that's great. I know Commissioner Hartwick's on top of this as well. I don't know whether you wanted to add anything, George.
Thank you, and we appreciate Councilwoman Smith for her question. Pat Stringer.
Following up on Councilman Smith's thing, the Capital Region Ex-Offender Support Group, it must be the one you're talking about, Mr. Black, meets tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock at Dodge City. Right now, we're in need of housing for 4 ex-offenders who are getting out. If there's anything that the Chamber or Preety can do, that's a very important thing. You don't have a roof over your head, you're not going to be able to have a job. So in this big city of ours, I think there should be some people who can identify some housing that these people, we know they can't live in every neighborhood because of restrictions, but if you could come back within a month and find either a room or a building or a housing that meets up to the criteria that people have, find housing for 4 people. We also need a used car for a mechanic who's an ex-offender. So those are just 4 places for ex-offenders, and can you find a car? You have a month to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stringer. And I would at this point wanted to add on to that. Stan Lawson from the NAACP is here. We appreciate the NAACP's presence and support for Harrisburg Hope. And more immediately, today there was a rally on the voter ID bill. This is also related to opportunity because our civil rights are fundamental to being able to have the right elected officials who will push for economic opportunity.
My name is Ryan Sanders from the African American Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate Harrisburg Hope and the Hamilton Health Center for holding this particular forum inside of Allison Hill. As a resident of Allison Hill, we've seen that there are a lot of diverse challenges that are out there and that these small businesses here in the city need help. We went in front of City Council here, say about a month ago, and put a plan in place to create 45 new jobs for the city of Harrisburg and also work with 60 small businesses, and it was voted down. It was voted down for reasons that you may have to ask your council members specifically for. We feel as though that the African American Chamber of Commerce is able to provide a service for some of the smaller businesses that may need it. Some of the diverse challenges that we've seen is anything from corporate structure to financing, to marketing, and just overall education. My question for the panel would be specifically, what are some of the initiatives that you have in place to bring in some of the larger corporate sponsors, not to necessarily fan dollars at these particular businesses, but to work with them individually to help scale them up so they may be available to work on larger contracts?
Thank you, Mr. Sanders, and don't go anywhere. I have a follow-up question once the panel has a chance to
Very quickly, the Small Business Development Center offers free business plan advice. They're in our office. Community First Fund that I already mentioned does similar kind of work. Send anybody our way. They'll come and meet with them or have them come in. No charge, absolutely no charge. So those services are free and we'd be happy to help. So.
Would you mind being able to work with the African American Chamber directly to work with specifically, like I said, we have identified about 60 small businesses right within Harrisburg that are just not African American also. These are minority businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and so forth. to really have that type of economic impact that can happen within a year, because we are so small. I'm from the city of Philadelphia originally, so I can understand what it means to have mass change, but I think that there are some things that can be done here locally.
Yeah, let's talk afterwards, but I think there's opportunities to get a group together, get started, and then pull out individual needs.
Sir.
Thank you. My follow-up question to you, appreciate the work that the African American Chamber has done, is specifically turning it back to you. What are 3 suggestions that you would have to create more economic opportunity within the communities that you're dealing with every day?
Well, the first thing is, it starts with the businesses themselves. America is a great place. You have an opportunity here to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and there are opportunities that are available for education and so forth, so I say first it will start with them. Second, we have to look at our Chamber of Commerce's, our larger partners, some of the satellite chambers, to get them involved and to bring everybody together and to really unify around the city of Harrisburg in order to affect that type of change. The third thing is to support and become a member of the local African American Chamber of Commerce. We have our gala that's coming up on August the 1st. We also have a fundraising event on August the 2nd for our junior entrepreneurs training and program. And on the 3rd, we have a free fitness event in the park with a 2-time Olympian, Highlands Fountain. So we're just looking for opportunities just to get everybody involved. And like I said, it's not about just pushing dollars on people, but it's about finding out what is really needed to affect change.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. We have time for just a couple more questions. So, Mr. Les Ford.
Les Ford, I want to follow up on that point about participation with the African American Chamber. Dave, you and I have been in some meetings together when this has been discussed. Those meetings go back 4 years ago, 8 years ago, probably 10 years ago. And here's this young man asking me the same thing here. I'm going to dare to say 10 years later. So, when Pat Stringer got up here, she suggested specific objectives for you all to accomplish over the course of the next few days, few weeks. I'm going to offer a specific objective for you to achieve over the next 6 months, and that is to sit down once a month, 2 of your people and 2 people from the African American Chamber to sit down and have a series of sessions once a month over the next 6 months. We can hit the ground running with this new breath of fresh air in Harrisburg. We can hit the ground running, but there has to be a demonstration of commitment from all parties. And I'm structuring this very carefully because I'm putting part of the onus on the Black American Chamber and I'm putting part of the onus on you. We've been through this before, we've danced this dance before, but let's put down some specific objectives relative to the next 6 months in this city to get you and the African American Chamber in the same room for significant and ongoing conversations.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
I'll just say that we have, I think, a good working relationship with all of them, and happy to do that on a monthly basis. Leland and Shariah probably are the people that we need to talk to. I think the last time, it's been a couple weeks since I've talked to Shariah, she was saying, you know, the plan that you and Anna helped us put together, we're starting to implement it, and they're feeling good about it. So it's not, I think there's more going on behind the scenes than perhaps what people are aware of, but we're happy to do that on a monthly basis and work with all the minority chambers that are here in the region. So thanks for bringing it up.
And one follow-up, construction, construction, construction. Housing rehabilitation. I mean, that's a natural for this city. So I'm going to suggest that you target an area and then come up with specific objectives around that targeted area for the meetings in the next 6 months. That's just my suggestion. Once you get in there, you know, please.
Thank you.
My name is Lavette Page, and I just want to give another idea for the ex-offenders and for PREDIG to think about, and that is some cities create jobs just for ex-offenders. There's a city that it's called I forget what it is, but anyway, they only hire ex-offenders. It's created just for that. This city needs to do something. I am a pastor in this city. I am CEO of the King Center, and I have them coming left and right, crying, young men, especially young black men, crying because they are desperate, because there is nothing in the city, and then they go right back, and the recidivism rate goes up because they can't find a job, and then they find guns, and then they try to rob someone because they are hopeless. They just have no hope. We've got to do something in this city, and we need to create our own place where we can just, when they come out of jail, if they make a mistake, and everyone in this room, if you go back into your closet, you've made a mistake. You just didn't get caught. So these young men and young women are getting caught, and they're not giving another chance. They're not giving that second chance. We can give them that second chance in Harrisburg by creating an opportunity to bring in money to our city and bring hope to these young men and women who are coming out of prison. I just want to get that.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Vera Cornish, and I have been quietly encouraged to make a statement. There are some people that when you make eye contact with them, you get the message. So first and foremost, on the issue of employment, we had numerous corporations approach my company to establish a diversity and inclusion career fair. Because the major corporations in central Pennsylvania, and I'm specifically saying within the region, they wanted to stop going to Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, and New York in order to recruit diverse populations. So we co-created the Access and Opportunity Career Fair. It was for 3 years. First year was the beta test. We have probably had about 500 people in attendance. Second year, we had over 1,000 people in attendance. Last year, well, this year, actually, January of this year, we had over 3,000 people in attendance. Now, what makes it work? Corporations, staffing agencies. So when I think of employment, I think of all of the opportunities where employment exists. Ahold was there, Giant was there, Highmark was there, Hershey Medical Center was there, Hershey Entertainment was there, staffing agencies, at least 5 different staffing agencies. And people got jobs, they got hired. Now, the need is great. What we also learned, and Pastor Page, you were with us that first year, and literally, the pastors, thank God for them. They created a safe place for young men to go into a quiet area, and they literally were weeping because they realized they weren't prepared. Now, I don't want to paint a picture that every black man was not prepared. That is not accurate either. And I don't want to paint a picture that everyone came there like not dressed properly, okay? But there is a real need when you live in total poverty. And there is a need that has been expressed that there needs to be, for instance, a Dress for Success program for men.
Right.
Thank you. So my point is quite simple. I listen to the companies. I'm asking them where are the opportunities, and then we deliver. So very specifically, number one, on January 20th, the entire second floor of the Hilton is already under contract for the 2014 Access and Opportunity Career Fair. Corporations need to come on board. They did last year, it worked.
Thank you.
Number two, and I will sit down. Once a year is not enough. And we are looking to partner with other entities so that we can build a more consistent way to have an opportunity and access career website. So if there's anyone here that would like to assist us with that, and I'm looking at you, David, because we've already begun the conversations with the chamber, all right? And I want to say that on a positive note. We want to impact the city of Harrisburg. This is a region. And if people can work anywhere in the region, they're bringing the money back into the city of Harrisburg.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being with us and Pastor Page. At this point, we're going to
begin to wrap up, I'd like to thank everyone, and then we're going to hear some final thoughts from our panelists. So don't go anywhere. I'd like to thank everyone who came out tonight to be with us. It was truly an honor for the Harrisburg Regional Chamber to put this all together. The credit goes to the Chamber. Dave and I had a lot of conversations, and I know his staff has worked very, very hard to make this happen here at the Hamilton Health Center, which brings me to also thank the Hamilton Health Center, Janine Peterson, Kathy Posner from the Community Action Commission, and our other partners. So I would also like to thank the community for having a civil dialogue, and as president of Harrisburg Hope, I really appreciate that, and thank you. At this point, I'd like to turn it over first to Ms. Williams for your closing thoughts.
I'd like to once again thank everyone for being here. I think this has been a great dialogue, and I really do appreciate all of the concern that people have. And I think one of the things that I continue to believe is that the more unified we can be in our approach, the more dialogue we can have, the more often we can talk together, the more likely we are to move the needle. And so thank you all very much for being here.
Next we'll hear from Audrey Abraham.
I really think Laura said it all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for letting us have this opportunity. We will look at all the ideas you guys raised and see which ones we can carry through on. Our goal really is to create opportunity for everyone, regardless of race, color, sexual orientation, or any other differentiation you might make among people. Anything we can do even after this, if you guys have ideas, Dave's downtown, I'm often downtown, let us know. We're here to help.
Thank you. Just before we adjourn, I do want to recognize our staff that's here today. We have got an incredible, talented group of people that work at the Chamber in Creedy. So everybody stand up, and there's a couple, Brittany, Linda, John's here. Linda Goldstein, who's the better half of the Corky and Linda team, is our vice president on the Creedy side, and Amma, as I refer to her in the office, is awesome Amma. Did a lot of work on pulling this together. I want to thank Alan for doing a great job of facilitating this. It's always educational. Every time I have an opportunity to talk with folks, I learn more, and I try to follow up on what I said I would do and what we will try to do. We've got some great ideas over here on the board, so thank you, and God bless you, and have a great night.
Thank you very much to everyone who came. We'll let you know when this will air on PCN, and you can also catch it on Channel 20. And again, thank you for joining us here on Allison Hill at the Hamilton Health Center. I'm Alan Kennedy Schaefer. Good night.